I think that as far as the Friends speeches are concerned, this is the chapter with the highest truth to error ratio. And it's probably not a coincidence that this is also the shortest chapter from the Friends. Bildad's speech here is concise, and he focuses his attention on the overwhelming glory and majesty of God, and he contrasts it with the inherent lowliness of man. So listen to these expressions of the greatness and grandeur of God. Dominion and awe belong to God. He establishes order in the heights of heaven. Can his forces be numbered? On whom does his light not rise? Bildad is pointing out that God is completely in control, and the vastness of his heavenly host is beyond comprehension. Building on these ideas of God's supremacy, Bildad then asks some questions. How then can a mortal be righteous before God? How can one born of woman be pure? And of course, in the truest sense, Bildad is absolutely right. Romans 3 tells us that there is no one righteous, not even one. God is holy, and we are not. God is sinless, we are sinful. God is righteous, and we are wretched. The purity of God is beyond comparison. God's righteousness is of another order of magnitude than the righteousness of mere mankind. And he closes this idea with the rather shocking phrase, if even the moon is not bright and the stars are not pure in his eyes, how much less a mortal who is but a maggot, a human being who is only a worm. To his credit, at least as he says this offensive thing, he is including himself in the category. Rather than just saying, Job, you are like this, you are like that, he's now saying, we are like this, we are like that. There is an element, at least, of accuracy in that portion of it. He has the same human condition as everyone else. But what about this question? Are we like worms, as Bildad supposes? That description comes up on 4 occasions in the Bible, and 2 of those occasions are in the book of Job. Back in chapter 17, Job said, if I say to corruption, you are my father, or to the worm, my mother or my sister, where then is my hope? Who can see any hope for me? It's important to say that that was not the Bible teaching what we are like. That was Job expressing his darkest feelings. He feels that repulsive, that lowly, like he has that little to offer, that a worm seems to be a fair descriptor in his mind. Likewise, in Psalm 22, which is a psalm of David, he is feeling very sorry for himself, in much the same way that Job is. And David says, but I am a worm and not a man, scorned by everyone, despised by the people. Those who see me mock me. They hurl insults, shaking their heads. Is it the case that David is a worm and not a man? Well, again, no, but that's how he feels. Again, this is not the Bible teaching that we are worm-like in our dignity, our value, our worth. This is David saying how he feels. The final example is an interesting one, because it is God speaking through the prophet Isaiah, and he speaks of his people, Jacob or Israel, being like a worm, but he speaks not with repulsion, but affection. This is so bizarre to hear. This is God having compassion upon a creature that has no strength, no ability to defend itself. It can't fight back against its enemy, but God will do it for them. He says, for I am the Lord your God, who takes hold of your right hand and says to you, do not fear. I will help you. Do not be afraid, you worm, Jacob. Little Israel, do not fear, for I myself will help you, declares the Lord. Do you hear the affectionate tone in God's voice? He's not saying you are repulsive like a worm, but helpless like a worm. The birds circle above, ready to peck your brains out, but I will step in. I will save you. I will see to it that you are safe, says God. Now, why spend so long focusing on this idea of us apparently being worm-like according to Bildad? Well, the reason is because I think it's wrong in almost every way. But it is a metaphor that is picked up by several ancient hymn writers, like Isaac Watts, for example, who writes, alas, and did my Saviour bleed, and did my sovereign die, would he devote that sacred head for such a worm as I? Which has been updated to such a sinner as I in most modern hymnals. Our powerlessness in comparison to God, yes, it is kind of worm-like. I agree with that. But our dignity in the sight of God could hardly be further from that image. Much as we recoil from maggots and worms if we were to find them in our food, God does not recoil from us. In fact, his affection is the opposite. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. We are made, in fact, in God's own image, and we, his saved people, are clothed with the righteousness of Christ. The Father so deeply loved us that he sent his Son to save us. And so, our hymn writers of the past and Bildad in the Bible would casually call us worms, but you can be assured that God does not casually disregard and feel repulsed by you, but you are a beautifully made, dearly cherished child of God, adopted into his family, united with him for all eternity, and clothed with the perfection of Christ.